Hello, welcome back to another speed build with Frimlin. And this is Halloween 2017, and I decided that maybe I should do something appropriate for this time of the year. So I gathered all my inspiration together and found a few little homes that I thought looked like the kind of thing I wanted to build. And basically, although this is kind of a dark build for Halloween, it's still a perfectly functional family home as well. Now, I just have to point out here that the reason it's so dark while I'm building is not because I deliberately chose to build at night, but because I had a mod installed that keeps Forgotten Hollow eternally at night. And that's actually the way I like it in game, because when I have vampires living in Forgotten Hollow and they're walking around at day, I don't like them burning up. With this mod installed, you don't have that problem. Vampires can walk around in day or night in Forgotten Hollow with the mod installed, which I think is kind of cool. And it only applies to Forgotten Hollow, so it doesn't really impact on the rest of my gameplay. So yeah, that's why I had it installed, and I actually completely forgot about it. So when I was building, I'm like, wow, this is really dark, and I did try and change the time of day, but for some reason I didn't really click in my head, oh, it's because of a mod. And it wasn't till a bit later on that I realized, oh yeah, the mod. So I took it out, and yeah, later on in this speed build, you will see suddenly the whole of Forgotten Hollow becomes a lot lighter. Now, I don't know if you saw in my last speed build or not, that was for a family home called Glendale House, and I made that for my Let's Play series. I actually made about 3 different colour variants of the exterior of that house and stuck them on the gallery. So if you wanted a pink or yellow or blue version of Glendale House, go check out my gallery. I'm on there as Frimlin, the same as on here and on Twitter. Yeah, and I just thought that would be a nice gift to give to people. And also, I recently passed 1,200 followers in game and 200 subscribers on YouTube. It's a little bit higher now, though. Thank you so much. I thought it would be nice, just a nice thing to give to people so that they have a few more options for the house. Funny thing is, since I have done that, I am now looking at my Let's Play house and thinking, maybe I should change its colour to one of the colour variations. I don't know, but yeah, I think I like the original green. There's something about it. So you might be wondering if I'm going to do that for this house as well. And the answer is I have already done it for this house. So all being well, as soon as this video is live on YouTube, there should also be 3 or 4 different colour variations of this house up in the gallery for you to download. So there's the standard version, there's also like a darker version with black trimmings, there is a green and a yellow, and then a red pink, which is quite bold and interesting and definitely worth a look. And yeah, just pop over to my gallery, Origin ID Frimlin, and you should be able to find them there to download. Now, I am not any kind of architecture expert, but I believe this house is somewhat inspired by either a Victorian or Second Empire house from the US. If you're listening to this and you know better, please tell us all in the comments. I did a little bit of research. To be honest, it was only a few minutes, and that's what I came up with. So yeah, somewhere around 1850 to 1900, and either Victorian or Second Empire or somewhere in between. And yeah, this is just inspired from that. It's not a recreation. I just like the shape of the house that I found and just wanted to make something similar to that, though probably not as ornate. And yeah, it's completely wooden. So although I was tempted to use some of the big stone doors and windows that come along with the Vampires game pack, it just seemed right to stick to the wood that was already there. So yeah, the place remains wood. yeah, I'm actually quite a fan of this style. And I think I probably could live there. I mean, you know, if someone gave me a free house, I'm gonna live anywhere, right? But no, I like the look of it. But I can imagine perhaps it could be a little rotten inside in some places, depending on whereabouts in the world it is. You know, because wood can last for a long time, like some of the stave churches we see in Norway and that kind of thing. But in other places, it doesn't last very long at all. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not a massive fan of living in wood, but I don't actually have a choice. It's not like I have like a list of options of houses that I could move into right now, and I'm like, no, I don't want to move into that one because it's wooden. That's not actually my life, unfortunately. But you know, if you're rich and good looking, please get in contact with me and maybe we can sort something out. Yeah, I could even design a house for us to live in. Wouldn't that be cool? That would be really fun. So, I like restricting packs in my build, as you probably know by now. So which packs have I restricted it to in this build? Well, you have probably guessed that I'm using the Vampires game pack for some of the elements. I am also later on kind of coerced into using the Vintage Glamour stuff pack as well, because I like using Vintage Glamour. It does go well with Vampires game pack stuff, and it's, you know, it's closer in time as well to each other, as opposed to the modern day, for example. And where the Vampires game pack gets a bit kind of dark and creepy, the Vintage Glamour pack can be used to kind of stifle that and keep it classy and elegant. And so that's what I was trying to do with this build. I didn't want it to actually be all that creepy. It looks a little creepy on the outside and at night, and especially the darker version, which has the black freezers and fences and stairs and that kind of stuff. But actually, you know, the place is just a house, just a family house, and it's not supposed to be creepy or scary inside. Although in saying that, actually, one of the lot traits is haunted, and I've never used that one that I can remember with any of my builds. And I guess I think that it would probably put people off downloading it, and that's probably why I haven't used it. But this is supposed to be a Halloween build, so I thought, go on, stick in the haunted trait. You know, what's going to go wrong? Hopefully there won't be any angry comments from people who suddenly find themselves living with a ghost when they download this house from the gallery. But we shall see. But yeah, I just thought it would be a little bit of fun. But yeah, talking about lot traits, another one that I stuck in was the home studio lot trait, which gives you a bit of a bonus when you're either writing or painting or using the woodwork machine, the woodcraft bench or whatever it's called, the woodwork machine. I don't know what I was meaning there, but I think you know what I mean. So yeah, that's also another trait that I don't think I've used. I might have used it maybe once, but I don't really remember using it that often. If you watch quite a few of my videos, you already know that I like trying to do something different with each build. And yeah, so what was the different thing in this build? Well, yeah, the lot trait, and what else? So I used the Vampires game pack, as I mentioned earlier, and Vintage Glamour, but I also used the romantic garden stuff, and that is something I don't use very often. So that would be one of the special things of this build. And also, I don't think I've tried ever to do a house of this kind of style. I have done houses with mansard roofs, which are the elevated roofs that you will see on the top of this house. The steep roof is probably a better way of describing it. It's very steep and often has windows kind of perched into it, dormer windows. And actually this one does have dormer windows in it from the Vampires game pack, but they have like a black kind of trim to them, despite being actually white windows. And the other windows in the house didn't have any kind of trim like that, and I just thought there was a bit of a clash between them and the normal windows of the house. So I decided actually in the end to take them off. So you still have the beautiful mansard roof, but you just don't have dormer windows. But they're completely, fake windows anyway. They don't provide any light into the room. They're not even connected to the room, in fact. So yeah, completely superfluous, and I don't think anyone's crying at their loss. If you are, though, you could always add them back in. No problem. They're pretty easy to add. I should probably talk about some of the build, shouldn't I? Instead of talking about it in kind of a meta way. Basically, I went through this place and I filled it with this plain wallpaper. I'm not actually sure what it's called, or what it's called in game in particular, but it looks a bit like gingham material, so I'm going to call it that. But I don't know, it has this kind of rustic feel to me, so I thought I would use that to kind of spread it around the house, not intending to keep it, but just to set the tone, and having it there kind of helped me choose which objects I was going to place in the room, even though I went back later and changed a lot of the wallpaper. But I didn't change it in the kitchen, and it actually keeps this wallpaper here in this kitchen. And it's a pretty standard kitchen, there's nothing really to talk about with it. There is a few cobwebs in there, and I think I removed one of them, but I think there probably is still one in there. But there's no microwave. There is, however, a dishwasher. But yeah, I spent quite a bit of time chipping away at this kitchen, and I kind of came back to it a bit later on as well. But I think I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I actually really like the size of this house. It's probably kind of like an ideal size for me. I mean, it's not too small and it's not too big. And I don't mean in terms of building, I mean playing. There's something about this kind of medium size kind of boutique house. I like the idea of having a house that's got, a couple of bedrooms, all the main rooms that you need, and has some kind of theme to it. So yeah, I like the kind of home studio theme that this place gets, and I like building houses that have a strong theme like that. Even though I also like building and playing in houses that are massive and have a room for everything, like a spa room and a massage room and a gym and everything that you could possibly need. I've definitely built quite a few houses like that, and somehow my legacy family always ends up in a house like that. But yeah, I really do like these smaller, medium kind of boutique builds. I think some builds are too small, and unless I'm doing it for a starter, it seems a bit of a waste to do a small build. I'd rather spend that time on something a bit more substantial. And then there are other builders that spend all their time on the bigger builds and probably never do anything small, but I quite like the medium size builds, both building and playing. So yeah, don't be surprised if you see some more coming out of my channel like that. So as you can see, I'm still kind of making structural changes, and it's not too unusual for me to do that, but I usually finish most of my layout before I start finishing. So slightly unusual. But I think once the layout is set, I don't change it again. I do make a couple of changes to the first floor, because there's like a massive bedroom, which is cool. It's a nice, spacious, big bedroom. But I kind of realized that it would be just as cool if it was a bit smaller, and it also allows everyone on that floor access to a bathroom by cutting it down to size. But I'll show you that when we get to that bathroom. So in terms of the garden, I wanted to do a little bit more than some of the houses I've done recently. And so there is a bit more garden than I would usually do. That's another reason why I put the house a little bit to the side and back of the lot rather than right in the middle, because I just wanted to have a bit more space to build with, and I wanted to have like a big lawn for dogs in particular to run around in November onwards. I don't know about you, but I am very excited about cats and dogs. It's definitely one of those big ones along with seasons that, you know, I really want in my game. And it's definitely going to change the way I build. So all these houses that I've built so far, I will probably look back on them and find them wanting, because they aren't, you know, they're not dog or cat supportive. But probably everything I build from November the 10th onwards will be. And from what I've seen in some of the footage, there's actually, instead of like a cat door or, you know, a dog door on a normal door, they actually have their own separate doors. So it's going to be interesting to see how people build those into houses or build around them. And I've been thinking about that just today. I've been thinking, how would I do that? We shall see. But yeah, definitely very excited for cats and dogs. What about you? And are you more excited for cats or for dogs? And is that the same as whether you're a cat person or a dog person? Because I am definitely a cat person, but I like dogs. And, you know, if I had a dog, I would be very happy with the dog. But I don't know, for some reason I'm much more interested in cats. But for the expansion pack, I'm interested in both cats and dogs. They both look really cool. And in fact, I thought the dogs looked a lot better than the cats at first, and it wasn't until just recently that I started seeing some new screenshots of cats that I was kind of like, oh, actually, they do look quite good. And for a long time, for me at least, the dogs looked the best, and they looked great. So yeah, very excited about both of those. So, I am trying this kind of old-fashioned look in this lounge, but I'm not making it too scary in the kind of Vampires Game Pack way. And I'm using the vintage glamour stuff, or some of it at least, to try and temper the ghastly, scary things that come along with the Vampires Game Pack. There's only a few things, like bird head and what else? I don't know. Maybe there's not much. But yeah, there's definitely a darker look to some of that stuff. And yeah, I think the vintage glamour stuff works well at working against that. I'm not sure if I've used those heaters anywhere in any of my builds. Maybe I'm wrong. I probably used them when the Vampires Game Pack first came out, but hardly ever since then. And I actually really like them in this build. They just seem appropriate in the corner over there. So I was pleased to have placed them. I don't know if you've noticed yet, but there isn't actually a television in this room. And there isn't a television in the whole house when I'm finished. There is a computer though, because I wanted there to be one for a writer, because of the lot trait of home studio. So I was quite keen to get a chessboard in here, and there it is. And then there's also the pipe organ, which came along with Vampires Game Pack. I don't think I have used that since the first few builds I made with the pack. I don't know, it just hasn't felt appropriate for the builds that I've done. So it's nice to use it in here. And it just adds to the whole creative feeling of this building. I mean, okay, when you look at it, it's creepy old look, you know? I know it's not a creative place to look at, but it has the lot trait, home studio. It has an easel to paint on. It has the computer to write on. And the woodworking bench, or whatever it's called, outside to work on. So that's what I'm meaning by a creative place. I mean, I know that this is built using the Vampires Game Pack and is perhaps slightly creepy. I know it's slightly dark, but it's also creative. And maybe some creative vampires could come and live here, or people that just like being around vampires or in dark places like Forgotten Hollow? I don't know. It's up to you to decide your story. We're actually not all that far away from the end of the video, and of course that's where all the preview videos and a couple of screenshots are. I actually tried a bit harder to do a few more video previews this time, rather than static screenshots, because, you know, they're just more interesting to look at. All being well, and for the first time, there should be a link to where the preview starts in the description below, so if you can't wait any longer, you can go down there, click that link, and you can be transported into the future using modern technology. And you can see what this place looks like when I've finished building it. Funny little thing, I watch Deligracy rather a lot, and I've watched her for many years. Much longer than I've actually been building and sharing my builds with the public. And she always used to use this rug. And so I kind of saw it as her rug, and I wouldn't use it in most of my builds because, I don't know, it just made a place look like Deligracy, which is not a bad thing. It's a good thing, a very good thing. But I just thought it was like her signature rug because she used it so much back then. I don't know if she still does as much. But there's certainly more rugs to choose from nowadays, which is great. Well, unless you restrict packs when you're building, like I do, in which case you only have a couple of rugs to choose from. Although there's still quite a few in the base game. Yeah, I like using as many different rugs, or I like using items from a pack rather than the base game if I'm using a certain pack. But yeah, it's not always possible. But yeah, there's the bathroom transported from upstairs. You didn't have to watch it getting built yet again. You didn't have to watch me cloning all the items in there and bringing them up. No, I just transported it off camera. What I was just doing with those beds is basically I placed down 2 or 3 beds, the ones that I thought that I would want to use. I tried a couple of things out and just basically picked one of them in the end, the kind of apricot coloured one. And the reason I did it kind of that way is just to make sure that there was going to be enough stuff to be able to support the bed colour with. Like, is there going to be furniture that uses the same wood colour? Is there going to be other furnishing that has the same kind of apricot colour to it? Is there going to be wallpaper that is also of a similar colour, or one that matches it, or, you know, goes well with it in some other way? And there was. And sometimes I've placed like a bed, for example, and it uses colours that nothing else uses. And I just find that so frustrating. And I don't want to get into this kind of situation where I build myself into a corner and I can't really, you know, match everything in the room like I like matching them. So I decided that, yeah, I would try and just do a little bit of an experiment first to make sure that the items that I'm going to use are going to be supported by other items. And so yeah, that's that explained. Now, this was the bit I talked about earlier. This bit was sliced off the edge of that rather large bedroom. And the good things about it are that it allows people access to the bathroom. So it isn't just an ensuite for the large bedroom. It could be used also by the kids' room, which is to be done. You'll see that being built very shortly. But also, because it's just a bit bigger than the standard hall, there is space to sit down. There's an easel so you can paint. There is a fireplace so you can stand there and warm your hands, have a chat with your friend or your lover or something like that. Of course, you're going to have a chat with your lover, yeah. But yeah, keeping it Disney. Yeah, so I just thought that it was a much better use of that space, because as you can see, this room is already quite big, and I do my best to fill it up with clutter. No, I don't. Of course I don't. I keep it pretty clear and pretty spacious, but not as spacious and as clear as this main master bedroom, which has a lot of extra space. But yeah, I think I probably prefer this bedroom to the master bedroom. There's just something about it. It's kind of cozy yet spacious. And I've always liked this kind of apricot peach colour in my builds, so it's a definite favourite colour for me to use. It's got this kind of warmth to it and a softness, but it doesn't strike me as being like overtly feminine. I don't know, it's just a colour that I like using a lot. I figured that if this is going to be a house for multiple people, that I should have a kids room. And it's funny because a lot of the house I'd done in a kind of a period style, and later on when I was looking back at this footage for the first time, I was thinking maybe I should have done this room also in like a period style, and maybe I should have made the whole build suitable for people that are doing the decade challenge. I actually watch a decade challenge. My friend Crystal Sims does one pretty regularly. And if you don't know anything about it, I really strongly suggest you Google it and have a little look. But basically you play through Sims from around 1890 up until modern day. And as you go up through a generation, you kind of level up the styles of the houses and the furniture and the clothing they use. And actually it's really quite creative and cool, especially if you're someone like me that likes history and, you know, historical stuff. If you are at all interested, up in the top corner there should be a link now to the first part of Crystal Sims Decade Challenge Let's Play, and yeah, it's definitely very interesting. And she does a very good job as well. So yeah, check her out, very entertaining, and she's just started a whole new LP actually. So this little room that I was just looking at is what I would call a landing, and that's the term that I was taught when I was growing up. But basically it's just a hallway where the stairs from a floor below lands when it enters that hallway. Yeah, it's just called a landing. I don't know why. I haven't actually googled it. I probably should have googled it so I could explain all the history of the term or something, but that's my understanding. As you can see, I am now doing some tweaks to the exterior, basically removing things that I thought looked a bit weird and adding things that I thought made it look better. And yeah, one of the things I removed, as I told you earlier, was the dormer windows. They are now gone, and there was black stone on the roof that's now grey to match the roof colour. I changed the red flowers from the romantic garden stuff pack to being white instead. Basically I wanted to make this the kind of default or main version of the house, and then all the different colour variations would kind of stem from this one. So I kept the red flowers for the darker version of the house, whereas this version's kind of more vanilla and standard. And yeah, it doesn't have as many bright colours. Well, unless you call white a bright colour, which I guess it is. There are different coloured flowers for each version of the house. That's just one thing I wanted to change to make them a bit different. But otherwise, all of the houses are exactly the same on the inside. I could have spent the time and made them different on the inside as well. You know, made them each unique in some way, other than the colour on the exterior and the flower colour. But I just thought that was a bit of a wasted effort, and yeah, and also this whole different colour variation of my builds is something quite new, and already it is something extra from the standard. So I just want to see how that goes down, and yeah, there's been slightly promising results already. So all being well, I will continue doing that for other builds as well, because yeah, it doesn't really take very long just to change the exterior colour of a house. And it might be that it's the colour that is more appealing to people than the one that I thought was good. Who knows? You know, I don't claim to be some kind of wonderful designer or anything. You know, I just take the beautiful things made by Maxis and stick them together in, you know, a way that I think looks okay. So, you're wondering why I'm adding this right now at the end. Well, the thing is, every time I went to save it, there was always something missing from that corner off the house. So I just had to add it in. Right, video preview time. So this is the standard grey kind of version of the house. The lounge or living room. The kitchen, with space above the fridge for cats to jump on. The hallway, which kind of became like an art room. And probably my favourite room. And the kids' room. And here's the main bedroom. So there's the grey version, a green version, a bold and beautiful pink and red version, and a soft and elegant yellow as well. And if they're all a bit too bright and happy for you and Halloween, then you can get the darker one instead. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope if you did enjoy it that you'll consider subscribing. And I look forward to seeing you here again. Take care and goodbye.